good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, nice to see you here in Amsterdam.
Yeah, we see each other everywhere, right?
Yeah,
We've been
exactly.
Miami, Nashville, everywhere.
I know, but that's what's happened. That's the place where the community gets together.
Absolutely.
So how have you been?
Really good, yeah. It's been a busy year and a half. We launched Ordinals in February 2023, and it's been basically non-stop working since then. It's been really fun.
Well, you are the legend in the Ordinal, one of the legends in the Ordinal space.
Well, I don't want to call myself a legend, but yeah, I mean, I've been a huge advocate of Ordinals, and basically, I love the fact that we're all doing this to bring people back to Bitcoin. That's been my main motivation, is like telling people, hey, all these fun things you've been doing on Ethereum, you can do it in Bitcoin, come on over, and that's been my big mission for the last year and a half.
So, in 1 minute, tell us, just refresh the mind of many people. They don't know about Ordinals. What are Ordinals?
Yeah, so essentially, they're digital assets on Bitcoin directly on layer 1. And if you look back at the history, in 2021, there was a massive NFT boom on Ethereum, where obviously it went to the absolute peak of the bull run, where Eminem and Snoop Dogg all had Bored Apes, and it was like a massive thing on Ethereum. Essentially, it showed the hunger for digital assets. It kind of put NFTs into people's minds. And now what's really cool is all that same concept of digital assets and collectibles and NFTs can now happen on Bitcoin layer 1, which previously at that time in 2021 was just a boring old chain that people could just hold Bitcoin or pay for something with Bitcoin. There was no concept of like digital artifacts at that time. So now there is. And essentially what an ordinal is basically it uses all Bitcoin technology. There's no smart contracts or anything like that like you do in other chains. It's all Bitcoin, and it uses ordinal theory, which is a theoretical kind of way of thinking, a way of mathematically creating each Satoshi, which is the smallest unit of Bitcoin. It makes each Satoshi unique by applying a number to it, from 0 to 21 trillion Satoshis. And that way, basically, you make them each Satoshi non-fungible, and then you can actually put data inside that transaction as well. So the data is on-chain, and that's a real big differentiator between Ordinals and Ethereum, because when you look at Ethereum NFTs, the smart contract actually points to somewhere else. The file, the images, the artwork is stored on someone's server somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's a big kind of a scary point, because those servers need to be maintained by someone. If someone stops paying the server bills, that server goes offline. Now your NFT doesn't point to anywhere, and you've got a dead link on your NFT. So that's the kind of dirty little secret of Ethereum NFTs and Solana NFTs, is that in 100, even 50 years from now, how many of those servers are going to still be active? How many of those images are going to be able to be served? Are all the NFTs just going to point to nowhere? Ordinals, on the other hand, all of the data, every single piece of data is on-chain. So it's all stored on the Bitcoin blockchain. So Ordinals has essentially opened up the most decentralized, government-resistant data storage that's ever existed.
It's super interesting, because I remember that we were in Lisbon, and people was there,
Yes.
talking about what he has done, and he was also inscribing something on Bitcoin. So do you think that actually Ordinals is going to be the place where all digital collectibles and digital arts are eventually going to go?
It's a good question. I think that there's it's kind of similar to that multi-chain question that's been happening for years. It's like, is there got to be one blockchain that does everything? And the answer was mostly no. We think actually there'll be a blockchain for every kind of use case. That's the multi-chain ecosystem that we've got. Solana's more known for games. Ethereum's known for smart contracts and DeFi, etc. So with the same mentality, I think that Bitcoin and Ordinals will also have its own use cases, for mostly for technical reasons as well, because to inscribe something on Bitcoin, there's file size limitations as well, and also it's quite expensive to inscribe. So in Solana, for example, you can make a 10,000 NFT collection for like $10 or something.
Yeah.
But the same price in Bitcoin, you're talking tens and maybe thousands of dollars basically to do it on Bitcoin. So there's a barrier to entry to it, which I think will lead to maybe more higher end artwork being inscribed there. People who want to come to Bitcoin for a reason, and actually just like make a presence there, build a community there. So I think there'll be one-of-ones and great collections and great communities being built on Bitcoin, but not so much just a throwaway collection that people are trying. So I think that's the thing, and more high end is my opinion.
I think I really like what you mentioned about community, because I think people think about NFTs and Ordinals as well as mainly collectible, digital art on chain. But there is also an element of community that I think, especially in the Bitcoin community, is really, really strong. I mean, we see Travis with his Pizza Ninja, and he's actually giving these ordinals, they've got a really value to kind of like link you up to our community, and also the concept of like future of IP, and there is a lot of innovation happening in this space. So you are working with many projects. I mean, how many inscriptions have you done over the last year?
Quite a lot. In total, in the Ordinals ecosystem, there's been over now 79 million inscriptions, basically. So it's been quite a lot. I mean, obviously when we started this last year, they were under 1,000 inscriptions, right? And now there's over 79 million in total in the whole ecosystem. So it's been really a great growth over the last year and a half,
So how is challenging, for example, to inscribe this collection, considering, sometimes the mempool is really busy, and how do you work around these kind of challenges?
Yeah, it's definitely completely different from launching a collection on another chain. Like Solana and Ethereum are essentially the same, right? Because obviously Solana was like a fork of or a copy of Ethereum, so it's all EVM smart contracts in that world. So if you know how to launch an NFT collection on Ethereum, you're more than likely going to figure out how to do it on Solana. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has no smart contracts. It's a completely different blockchain, completely different block times as well. It's 10-minute block times and stuff. So it's a completely different ecosystem. So that brought basically we had to start from scratch. We had to figure out, how do we now do this on Bitcoin? How do we present it to normal people and say, here's how you do it? So when we launched, there was no wallets that did this. There was nothing really. So we had to really take the time to educate people about how it works, and at the time it was only people who are willing to take the risk of going so early into something. But that means they got really early inscriptions and they got the collection very early. But now, skip to a year and a half later, we've got wallet support with Experts and Leather, who have Ordinals in their wallet. You can go to a marketplace and just click buy, and it works just like the user experience is on other chains. Behind the scenes, when you're creating these collections, yes, there's been a lot of challenges and a lot of things we've learned in terms of people giving us all sorts of different file formats and file sizes, and how do you then get that on Bitcoin in a really economical way, because like I mentioned, it's quite expensive to inscribe on Bitcoin because it's a file size thing. So if you've got a large 2 megabyte file, that's going to cost quite a lot, but actually there might be ways to get that 2 megabyte file down to under 10 kilobytes by using all these different tricks that we've learned over the years. So there's loads of really cool ways to find out how to put it on Bitcoin, basically.
There is a lot of work really to do on this kind of infrastructure and that kind of tooling to allow this space to innovate, and sometimes I think like Ordinals says like the way to tokenize things on Bitcoin, and I'm right to think about that?
Yeah, for sure. Ordinals are essentially digital assets, but at the end of the day, they're non-fungible assets, and NFTs means non-fungible tokens. So you are tokenizing things on top of sats, whether it be collectibles, artwork, or now you've got fungible tokens as well. We're also going to be bringing actually gold to our marketplace, so real world asset gold, we're going to tokenize basically with a partner and then bring it as an ordinal, so you can then you can buy gold, real world gold as an ordinal as well. So in that sense, yes, we're tokenizing gold.
Super interesting. So tell me a little bit what kind of interest you are getting from maybe more the institutional side. I mean, you mentioned about gold, that's obviously part of it. I would just be curious to see how Ordinals are actually going out of the digital art ecosystem that they were born and they kind of strive to become something more broadly used and also to tap into other communities.
It's hard to say, because I think that even on Ethereum, the institutional thing is not really broken through to absolute mass adoption. So I think there's still a lot of work in Web3 in general to try.
Regulations.
Regulations be a big part of that. But it's also like, you know, if we build it, they will come kind of thing. So I think when we do the gold thing, for example, we can start to show that. DeFi is now happening on Bitcoin as well. So if we start to have some really cool DeFi protocols being built, good products there, and the volume starts to come in, then bigger institutions might start to see that as an opportunity, and then they can deploy capital to those things. But I think you have to show them first before they can come in. They're not going to, they're too big to like kind of come down to our level and build the thing with us. They want to just deploy their capital in there. So I think that's going to be a little bit maybe, I think, well, first of all, we'll hopefully see a little bit of a retail boom in the ordinals and Bitcoin this year, and next year as well, and then maybe the year after that follows in institutions. Similarly to how it did on Ethereum, right? You've only now got the ETFs on Ethereum, for example, 2 years after the NFT bull run, right? So I think it's like we follow the same pattern. There's like a retail boom, and then there's more infrastructure, and then there's like a bear market, and then potentially institutions come in. So another really cool asset or factor of ordinals. There's actually many different things that differentiate ordinals from Ethereum NFTs. So one of the things is that this stuff is actually inscribed onto Bitcoin itself, right? Like you actually use Bitcoin to inscribe onto it. So you can use things like rare sats. So you can find rare pieces of Bitcoin and then inscribe your artwork onto that, which is a really cool concept that you can't really get in other chains. So what does a rare sat mean? Well, there's a famous pizza transaction that happened years and years ago where a guy spent 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas, like back then, and it's now worth like $500 million or something for 2 pizzas. But he's became very infamous in the Bitcoin scene, you know. And what we've done is basically people have took that transaction, and from those 10,000 Bitcoin, we can find them and then we can resell them as pizza sats. So now you can inscribe your artwork onto pizza sats. So the Pizza Ninja is all pizza sats, for example, and it's basically using Bitcoin from that transaction. So that's just one component that's been we can use to like differentiate ourselves from other blockchains. It's using Bitcoin native. Another really cool thing is the fact that we can actually take over whole Bitcoin blocks. So for every single block that happens on Bitcoin, there's about 50 blocks a day, and we can partner with a miner. We have partnered with Marathon, who are the biggest mining company in the world, basically. So we had a great partnership with Marathon where we would use their mining resources to take over a full block, and every Bitcoin block has 4 megabytes of data you can store inside it. So once we have that whole block, we can essentially do anything with it. So we can then inscribe up to 4 megabytes of data for people. And this has become quite popular for marketing reasons. People might want to take over a whole block and the whole ecosystem gets excited about it. So there's been a new block being inscribed, maybe to do an image or a video file in that block. And it's just great marketing. The way I look at it is it's like a Times Square billboard. You know what I mean? So basically you pay, I don't know, $60,000 to be on Times Square for 1 minute, and then you're all waiting, and then you see yourself, and then you're gone, the next person comes in. It's kind of similar to that, where you take over a Bitcoin block, you become the largest file ever inscribed for like a few months until someone else gets a larger file than you know.
But you're there,
right? Everyone talks about it. It's the new thing. So that's been a really cool. We've done about 90% of the largest files we've done through Ordinals Spot. So,
wow. Yeah. So what's exciting happening at Ordinals Spot? Yeah.
So we've kind of been spending the last year and a half in the inscription game, right? Being able to allow people to create inscriptions and our launchpad, and we've been very much building that whole infrastructure side out. But now we're looking forward to, we're launching our own marketplace. So it's going to be our own take on how we think a marketplace should be, and it's a Bitcoin native marketplace. We're going to offer all these amazing connections we've made through our launchpad. We're going to bring them now full circle and offer amazing IP. So one of the first collections we're dropping is actually from the Elvis estate. So the officially stamped Elvis kind of ordinals, you know. That's been really exciting. And so those kind of same things we're going to bring to our marketplace. So our marketplace will be more of a higher end, like one-of-one, working with artists directly, special categories like gold, that kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to launching that. It's going to be called Trio, T-R-I-O, which is the same as our token. So we're going to basically call it the Trio Marketplace, and it gives us now a product called Trio, which has a token. So that's our way we're going. And
I know the token has been out for quite some time. So that, if I'm not wrong, that will be the currency that's going to be used to pay and transact.
Exactly, and you can earn rewards from it. You can stake Trio from the marketplace.
That's interesting. Okay, very exciting. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.